going to call this Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners meeting to order. I want to welcome everybody here, and we're going to start with the pledge of the flag led by the director.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's have a roll call for the commission. Suzanne? Present.
Present. Here.
Bruce Coven is excused from these meetings because of a work commitment.
Here. Here.
Thank you. Next time is the roll call for the county advisory boards. Just stand up and make sure Suzanne can hear you, hear your name.
Darrell Harwell, Washoe.
East Clark County.
Juliana Carson.
In Wellington, Elko.
Chad Bliss, Eureka County.
Chris Torres, Eureka County. Paul Harris, Clark County.
Paul Dixon, Clark County.
Tom Casanelli, Humboldt County.
Lynn Bunch, Mineral County.
We get everybody? Welcome again. Next item, member items or announcements. Any commission? Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We passed some heritage projects this year that didn't get funded, and what I would like to propose is at the meeting in May, we vote on transferring that money into the predator management fund for next year. In other words, that's $112,000 that we could put in there and use for predator management projects that we're going to have coming up this next year.
So we'd have to put that on as an agenda item then.
Yes.
Commissioner McBeth?
I'd have to look at the statute, but my recollection is that there's a process for issuing those funds out of the heritage account, and projects have to be submitted, and there's requirements for what has to be put together in the project, and then the commission has to vote on it as a heritage project. So I would assume we have to follow the statutes and the regulations with respect to heritage projects to spend any heritage funds.
I can look into that, and then if we can do it, I can put it on the agenda, I guess. So what you're saying is, I don't know the dollar value, whatever the dollar value of those projects were?
It was $112,000, I believe.
Actually, it was 200. It was 212. It was two $50,000 projects, and one that was 113,000, I believe.
That's what I thought.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It was actually 3. Yeah. Yeah, it's 2. So that'd make it even better.
Well,
my thought is that we've already voted on it and approved it, so the funds are available. And it seems like a shame we couldn't augment the predator management with these funds.
Well, I said any commissioner want to put things on the agenda, do it. So let me look at it and
check the legalese.
Yeah, and then I can see it, but it would put on the next agenda if we can do it, okay?
Thank you.
Anybody else have any? Commissioner Morai?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Something we might want to look at or keep in mind along that vein is if we want to use that money for predator work would be I'm not sure of regulation on it, but NDOW had submitted options along the lines of using that heritage money. So that's a possibility also, that if we want to use that money without losing it back into the Heritage Fund, we could use it on those options, and I think it would work.
Okay, we'll have if we put on the agenda, we'll have that as an option. Commissioner Rain?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing that came to my attention, I was reading a memorandum on the emergency budget action from the governor's office directing all departments, I'm sure very well of it, to eliminate all travel not related to the core mission of performing the job, eliminating all overtime, and several other things. It was back on February 11th this year, after our last meeting. And I was wondering, has that been fully implemented within NDOW, or is that, all departments, I assume that means NDOW, or how does that work?
For the record, Patrick Cates. Yeah, we are implementing the intent of that memorandum. Well, the memorandum itself, I was told by the governor's office that was a confidential internal memorandum, so I'm a little squeamish about reading it publicly. But to speak to those issues, the travel, I mentioned yesterday that they reduced our travel. That was in conjunction with that memorandum. We went through and cut out travel that was not deemed core to the mission. Most of the travel that we incur is in-state travel for field work, law enforcement officers, that sort of thing. So most of our travel was kept intact, but what was already reduced is to comply with that memo. And in terms of overtime, same sort of thing. We're very careful with how we approve overtime. And I don't know when that came out, but we're supposed to change the process for overtime so that it's being approved, whether it's comp or overtime pay, so that it's approved by the director's office. And we're in process of putting that in place right now, because currently, say a division chief or something could approve overtime for comp for their staff, and we're changing that. But we monitor it all the time. In fact, I get on the system once a week.
Out-of-state travel's been reduced dramatically, I take it, or trying to gather there?
It was, hang on, I've got those.
Just asking how it's been done, because I just don't know.
Scott,
Just
we're
asking
doing,
questions.
Commissioner Rain, this is Ken Mayer for the record. We're doing two things. One is we've reevaluated travel across the board. Supervisors are responsible for ensuring that what travel does happen is core mission stuff. As I spoke with each one of the directors had an opportunity to talk to the governor's office about what we do. If fish need to be fed on a Sunday night and it requires overtime, that's what we're going to do. The wardens are not going to stop at 8 hours to catch a bad guy. And so I have the authority to approve overtime. We're pretty squeaky about that. The budget office is actually going to, the new process is that as we input that, and if I delegate the responsibility for approving overtime to the division chiefs, which I'm going to do here, every other agency is doing the same thing, that they're going to be able to extract the overtime and do a summary on a monthly basis, and then contact the governor, the director, to determine if they have any questions about time. It's come down. The problem is, and the governor's office understands this as well, is that as we reduce staff, you still have a base amount of work that you got to get done. And I use the fisheries end of things. I mean, we have just a limited staff. So if you have to do certain things, you're going to have some overtime.
I'm just wondering how it's affecting the department, or if it has to, so it's affecting it, but not to a great extent at the moment.
I can tell you that we probably fared better than any other agency in state government, because we have so much dedicated money and so little in the big scheme of things. So we have cut back in places, and we've cranked down on the overtime, but we're still getting the core mission done. Certain things we're not doing. For instance, urban wildlife responses, especially here in Clark County, as an example. So there's things that we're not doing that we were doing before. Carl Lackey would call and say, I got a bear underneath the house up here. I think we're just going to leave it. And the director's office made a decision, no, you're going to go snake that bear out from underneath that guy's porch. So those kinds of things.
It's strange you brought up bears. I guess thing was, before we talked before a couple of years ago about bear seasons, and has anything more been done upon that by NDOW?
Yeah, in fact, I have a report. We could put that on the agenda too for May. We're in the process, first thing we have to, obviously, we're not going to have a bear season near Incline Village. I mean, that's where the
Yeah.
core population is. So what we're trying to determine, based on radio collared information, is determine of the population of bears we have in Nevada, what proportion is an incline urban interface and what portion are wildland bears. And then we need to know something about the demography of the population, number of males, females, young, and that kind of stuff, and productivity. Because we need to come to you and say, we got a core population of X, it's growing by X, we think we could safely harvest X, but we need that based on some data. And Lackey's been working with a university group, and we're currently collecting data. And I could give you a more detailed examination.
Why don't we put that on the agenda
Okay.
for June in Ely, because the May one we're pretty well, and give us a report on that, because we've studied bears when Fred Smith studied them in Little Valley 20 years ago, so we've done some bear studies already. I had a question on the budget. I understand that also because we're self-funded, those overtime rules and travel does not apply to us as much. Is that true or false?
No, they apply to all state agencies across the board, but there's more latitude when you have dedicated funding. And I think what you'll see, like with hiring, there's a solid hiring freeze. They have a process now that we have to apply, but when they take a look at, and the reason they shut everything down, they want to look at each individual agency, and when we submit and they find out we've got dedicated money, it's part of the core mission, and you start adding all those things up, then they give a quicker authorization to do those kinds of things. But we're under the same criteria. It's just how it's managed at the end result. It has a lot to do with the core mission as well as what proportion of dedicated funding you have.
If I could just add on the travel, as part of the special session, they reduced our travel expenditures by about $41,000 for next year and about $25,000 this year. Most of that was not general funds. It was fee funds, federal funds, that sort of thing, and they still reduced it. And we went through and did an evaluation, all the out-of-state travel, and where people weren't, integral, sitting on a committee or something where regional decisions are being made. If it was just a matter of them going to a conference to network and get some training, we cut all that stuff out, regardless of the funding source.
Okay, thank you. Are there comments? Commissioner Cavan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a correspondence from the BLM Ely office, and they're doing an EA on the Clover Mountain.
We got a correspondence coming down here in the agenda.
Sorry.
So if it's correspondence, let's hold it for the
I was
correspondence.
thinking we were in that mode, sorry.
We're not in correspondence, okay. Thank you, Commissioner Cavan. Because we got to move on this agenda because we got some time commitments to catch for flights. Let's go to the next item on the business is County Advisory Board member items.
Good morning, Chairman. Paul Dixon, for the record, Clark County. Two comments this morning. One is, how many people watched the news this morning? I'm going to come back to my issue of yesterday with wild horses. There was a 15-second segment on the news this morning on two different stations where they basically said, hey, 77 horses have died from the roundup in these corralled things, and this is horrible. We should be doing something about it. They continue to plug, even though we're not in the middle of a roundup with this, and I would come back to you with a request that we form a wild horse subcommittee that starts to look at how we build an education program, working with NDOW and the commission, working with the county advisory boards, and whether or not he likes it or not, I would nominate somebody like Mike McBeth to chair that as a suggestion to you, because he has a lot of passion there. That's comment number one. And since it was just brought up by Commissioner Raines and pointed out by Patrick that there's a confidential memo you were talking about with overtime and travel, I would request that the commission, since they brought that up, make that available to the cabs if possible, since it was brought up. by the commissioner talking about that, okay? Thank you.
I have another question. I read in your minutes that you guys had an open meeting complaint. Could you tell us the disposition of that against Clark County?
That was dispositioned many, many months ago, sir.
I just read in your minutes, though.
We had an open meeting law complaint. No, we talked about the open meeting law complaint that was filed against Alco, sir.
It wasn't Clark County?
It was not Clark County. We just mentioned that one had been filed against Alco, and we were in contact with the Alco cab members and chairman to see where we could support and find out what went on there so we didn't make the same mistakes.
I must have misread it then. I thought there was a complaint against Clark County.
No, Clark County's complaint was filed last year by Cecil Freddy, I believe, and that was resolved last November.
Last November?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other cab comments?
Darrell Harwell, Washoe County. Here again, I just want to reiterate that at our cab meeting, we decided as board members to kind of pick one committee to sit on. So Commissioner Rain, you have Copeland, that's going to be on your Wildlife Damage Committee, and you have Flowers, that's going to be on your Mule Deer Restoration Committee. Corbin's not here. I'm going to be on the administrative. Mr. Wilson, Caperle's going to be on your legislation committee. And Mr. Lamp, you get Smith on your heritage committee. Here again, gentlemen, when you set up these meetings, can you kind to think of places where there's going to be telecommunication or a phone-in number? As you can hear, there's restraint on travel. So, I mean, as County Advisory Board, we've already submitted in our budget, which doesn't allow us to have the travel to attend these meetings. I know they're going to be in various places. So really, when you guys set up these meetings, can you take and look for where we can call in to hear what's going on in the meetings? Or a telecommunication, like have it at a Fish and Game Wildlife Office where we can go into Reno and do it? I mean, please really keep those in mind when you set up your meetings on these committees. Thank you.
Yeah, I directed all the committees to try to get everybody involved, the cabs, and like, I didn't even know the Predator Committee till I saw it on the internet. It was Thursday, and it's hard to, like, if you have a Wildlife Damage Committee meeting, there's people from Elko, Eureka, Fallon, and Reno. It's hard to set communication up. We've had a problem with the communication, you know, to telephonic, and I guess the Las Vegas office just bought a new system, and I guess, or a new phone. It worked really good Thursday from what I heard. Everybody could hear it. And so it's hard to set a, you know, all over the state, and I don't even know when the committee's meetings are. I tell the chairman, just call it at your convenience, and so they call it at their convenience. So it's mandatory that the county boards keep looking, and I think Suzanne posts all of it on the internet, and make sure that all your committee members look it through your liaison people look at the internet when these meetings are, and get a hold of the chairman and find out where they can set up a phone deal, because like they can set it at Elko and Reno, but I'm not sure if the Fallon one works that good, and I don't know if we have another way of communicating in other parts of the state, but you know, they try to do, you can't have a phone with where every member lives, you know, obviously, so we try to set up centrally, and the committee chairman should try to make all the arrangements he can, but he's got to go through NDOW to find out what their capabilities are, but we encourage all the cabs put input to these committees, really do, and so it's important that you guys keep abreast of the open meeting law. Says they have to post it, you know, 3 days, and I don't keep track of all the committee members and all the committees myself. I've got enough stuff to do, and I don't even get invited to them sometimes. So we appreciate your participation, though. We really do, Darrell.
One other question. What is the duck stamp committee?
I didn't hear that.
Do you have a duck stamp committee?
Yes.
What's their agenda?
They had a meeting, you know, and then they didn't make they were going to work with Tom Wilson, you know, over some of the wording on it, and it was too late, so they just went with the wording, and we had the duck stamp judging already, or it's coming up, so that'll probably be after for next year, and I don't know when they'll call another committee meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Tom?
For the record, Tom Casanova with Humboldt County. I'd like to revisit the issue on the bonus point closures and the heritage tags closures, and maybe at the June meeting, if we could do that and get some county input. I think there's areas that should be closed. Like I was saying yesterday, we've got areas where there's one tag in a unit for some of these California sheep and things like that. And I feel those areas should be closed, and I think we should relook at the bears now. We don't have a tremendous amount of tags. We'll have 3 or 4 tags, and a lot of those tags are going to be sportsman-oriented tags with this Silver State tag coming on. So it's not like, and it's a unit that I really seriously believe does not have to be closed to those tags. There's plenty of sheep in that unit, and we could be taking more. And I think we should just look at it a little harder. I know I was one of the proponents to this when we started, and being in there last year and seeing, I think when we do these things, we have to look at them long and hard and get a lot of information from the department. They always said we have plenty of sheep in the bears, and you guys, it's an overcrowding issue more so than a harvest issue. But I think we should relook at that if we could do that and get some county input and some department input on it. Thank you.
And Tom, I think that if you think there's enough sheep in the bears, an excess amount, I think when you have your CAB meeting up there with the biologist, you should come out and with your biologist, a recommendation to increase the resident or non-resident tags in the bears.
We will. We come with a recommendation to the last meeting to split that season. And I believe they said that, I believe the Assistant DA said we could not do that. And I think that I disagree with that issue, because when we went to the singles, the 2-year season setting, that was one of my concerns. I said, hey, when we run into these problems, are we going to be able to change these seasons and tweak them on the off season? And everybody was in agreement that on that second year, we'd be able at that meeting to change seasons and fix them. And I'm sorry I wasn't at that meeting and I think you should look into that too. I believe legally you can change a season, because when we changed to the 2-year obligation, that was one of my issues. I wanted to know that in the off season we could fix if something was wrong.
Yeah, you know, I agree with you. We wanted to get on split seasons, but our Attorney General said it wasn't on the agenda properly, so we couldn't take action on it. But
so it was an agenda issue. Well,
yeah,
you couldn't cover that under the seasons. I mean, that's basically on the agenda. It's season setting time. What good's county advice if we can't do anything at the meeting when we come, because it's not, every county's thing's not written on there. We can't get you advice to a meeting and get it on the agenda, because our meetings are a week before your meeting. So
yeah,
how can you fix things if you know, it should be a general statement on there that seasons can be changed and will be changed if needed. Because why even have the meeting if you don't have every little item on the agenda?
Yeah, it was an agenda problem, but we were going to take that up to split the seasons, but we were told we couldn't do it, so that was our fault. So, okay. But that was a concern that we wanted to address, split seasons.
And I think it would work good there. And I still think we should look at relook at closures to the special tags. I think there's places that need it that we didn't do, and there's places that maybe we did that didn't need it. I think it'd be at the June meeting, if we could look at it and get some department information out on it to the counties and see what we can do. And maybe it'll stay the same, but I just revisit it if we could. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Paul Harris, Clark County Cab. I wanted to touch on the Silver State tag, and we kind of talked about that yesterday, and I guess we got a little bit off of the agenda. And Commissioner Raines and I spoke a little bit about it at lunch yesterday. And I guess what I wanted to do is get some input from you guys that when the Silver State tag is implemented, and hopefully it sounds like that's going to happen next year, that we're not going to lose the heritage tags that we already have. I mean, we've got 15 tags that can go up for heritage tags. We've been traditionally using 9. Apparently next year in 2011 we're only going to have 8 because we're going to lose one of the desert sheep tags. And I just want to make sure we're not going to have a situation where we're going to have a Silver State tag and then all of a sudden in 2011 we've got a Silver State tag and a bunch of these heritage tags are going to evaporate and we're going to say, oh, those are now going to Silver State tags. Is that the intention to do that next year when the Silver State tag is available?
I didn't hear the question.
The question is next year when we have a Silver State tag, because we're online to do that. And in 2011 we'll have a Silver State tag. And the intention of the commission is that there will not be we're losing one desert heritage tag. And my question is, when we have a Silver State tag, are you going to sweep other heritage tags away and use those as Silver State tags? And replace them with, and say now we're going to take the other desert tag and make it a Silver State tag, or we're going to take the elk tags or the antelope tags or any of the other tags away and make them Silver State tags.
I can't comment on what we're going to do in the future and what might happen in the future for next year. I think it's ridiculous to comment on that, so I can't comment on that. Commissioner Rain?
You know, and that was my intention here. Well, we got this item or public comment, either one. A question was asked yesterday, and like I say, it was a little bit off the agenda. But, you know, and as for the intent of the commission, of course, I don't think any of us can speak for the intent of the commission whatsoever. However, I can repeat pretty much what I said in the last meeting, and I think what I said back a couple of years ago when a whole different commission voted on the Silver State tag when it was brought forth as a petition, that wanted to keep, that my intent is to keep true to what I saw as the original intent of that, which got universal support at that time and is what gives it relatively universal support today. And that is we got nine tags we're using. We'll use some of them for Silver State, some of them for auction. That mix may change over time and undoubtedly will. My personal intent, which I say can't speak for the commission, is, hey, 9 tags. Let's split them up in a fashion. This coming year, we've got 8, we can make it 9. That's my intent, personal. And I think that was fairly well expressed in the last meeting.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Capurro?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That tag situation was sold to this commission and to the legislature on the basis that there are 9 tags issued, and that in the testimony that was given, that they did not anticipate increasing the number from 9 to a figure up to 15. That was directly testified to before the commission by the proponents. And now to come back in and say, well, we really didn't mean it, I think defeats the purpose. I think also that the information that was given regarding the estimates for money to be made from the Silver State tag draw were such that it was indicated that you could make more money off the Silver State tag than was being made off of the heritage tags. So I think it's inappropriate to discuss this particular situation regarding the number of tags this year for next year. I think that's an issue we'll take up at the proper time next year. But I'm just telling you what the background on it was, that we were told that we're talking about within the 9 tags, because there have been a number of people who have expressed concern over the number of special tags that we have continually added to this system, and that
Well, when you're talking about auction tags where you have really the people with high wealth that can bid on those tags, yeah, I can see where some hunters would say enough is enough. But the Silver State tag, the way it's designed, is very similar to the PIW tag, where my son can get it, anyone's son can get it, anyone can get that tag, and those individuals are happy to get the tag. They may not necessarily a trophy hunter where you'll have somebody who gets a heritage tag where they're out looking for a 400-inch bull or a 170-inch ram. Those are individuals that they put in for a raffle, they got a tag, and they're just real happy they get to go hunting. So, that was my point.
Commissioner Beth.
I guess my response is that legally, the way the statute works, this commission can issue 15 tags as a combination of heritage tags and Silver State tags, and the makeup of this commission will change. It has, since the dawn of time. And so, each commission will have the ability to determine the makeup of the tags that go out. And there's no limit of 9. The limit is 15. And so we can as a commission, divvy those tags up as the best way that we feel based on input from the cabs and all groups, determine what is best for our heritage fund.
Thank you.
Could I ask you a question? Let me ask you a question. If the Silver State tag pans out and we make $250,000 per tag, and it's a poor governor's tag, and all the sportsmen can apply for it, and we're making $250,000 per tag, and it's a money situation. And I'm sure you understand that. And we go to auction and only get $60,000 like we did. Would you be opposed to giving it to residents of the state if we're making more money than to auction it off for $60,000? If we're making $250,000, would you be opposed to giving it to the sportsmen of the state and making them all Silver State tags?
Well, Chairman Lent, I would. You just said it's a money issue, and I agree. And I'm completely confused why you took a tag that's worth $100,000 to the state away. So you're right, it is a money issue. And yes, I'm here for wildlife. That's the reason I'm here, and I assume that's the reason everybody in this room is here. So if we're raising money for wildlife, that's a wonderful thing. Do I think if the time comes when you have Silver State tags raising $250,000 and you have a governor's tag raising $100,000 for, say, a sheep tag, then yeah, that's something we need to take a hard look at. But that's not where we are today. And where we are today is, right now in this room, is a desert tag that was worth $100,000, $100,000 plus, was taken off the table for reasons unbeknownst to me. But that's it's just confusing, and Commissioner Macbeth's point is correct. There's 15 tags, and I understand why you have it at 9, and I understand that there's people who say you shouldn't have just the chosen few who can have those tags. I understand that, but we're talking about a different system now where anyone can put in for a raffle and have a chance at one of those tags. And there's a tremendous amount of hunters out there, and I'll take Rocky or elk as an example, that they've gotten their elk tag and they're never going to get another one, and they'd love the opportunity to go back in and put their name in for a tag. And the Silver State tag system allows them to do that. And we take sheep off the table for a minute. I mean, if you're going to add additional tags of those 15, elk would be a fantastic one as a Silver State tag, because there's a tremendous amount of people that would put their name in the hat for that. We have great quality elk in the community. I think Commissioner Morai had a question.
Commissioner Morai?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My intent in supporting the reduction in the heritage tag on the desert bighorn was based on addressing the congestion problem or potential over-harvest of trophy rams out of one unit, which had nothing to do with the consideration of substituting that with a Silver State tag. I felt that was an issue that we addressed at that time, and the Silver State tag issue will come up at a different time. So that's where I stood in my support for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Commissioner,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to kind of reiterate what Pete said, as well as what Commissioner Macbeth said. It's going to be a various, depending on the makeup of the commission, there could be 15 heritage tags. I personally, in my opinion, I hope we don't get to that point. I want to see stuff that helps the sportsmen of the state and not necessarily just one person. To me, if we can give an opportunity to the residents of Nevada, the non-residents, to have the same opportunity to draw a tag that has the same opportunities to hunt as the heritage, as someone that goes and spends a pile of money on it, I'm all for that. And I hope that it works out the way the numbers are projected and it works. But a lot of the people that I talk to, they don't like the giveaway tag. And to me, if we just keep adding and adding and adding, if we ever get anywhere near that 15, there's going to be a lot of sportsmen that are upset. And once again, I don't want to see the over-congestion, and I don't know how we can solve that in some of these areas. The split season, I still see that as a potential, but then you're going to have the potential for someone that drew the second half of that had been watching the sheep or whatever in particular they're looking for, yet the guy in the first week takes it and he doesn't have the opportunity. So I don't think there's a perfect answer for any of this, but that was where I was looking at from that perspective when we made that decision at that meeting, was that we were trying to eliminate some congestion and overhunting, but then we hear information that maybe it's not quite as overhunted as it sounds. But that's where I stand on it. I want to see them all work, and I want to see the benefits to the wildlife of Nevada, and that's what I'm here for. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank
Thank you. Any other cabs?
Giuliana Carson Advisory Board. I'd have to go back and look at the transcript of the testimony to understand the comments made about the intent. Then there's the interpretation of what somebody else's intent was, just as the Supreme Court constantly reviews the Constitution, and each court may come up with a different finding of what their interpretation was of what the original intent was. Nevertheless, as the chairman mentioned, if you can raise $250,000, which would mean approximately 10,000 hunters would have to put in for the Silver State tag in order to raise that amount of money, that's a possibility. Nevertheless, if you have a charitable organization uses our heritage tags as a fundraising event and draws people who have the wherewithal to be able to bid $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 for a particular tag, I don't think we should turn that away. And we constantly, as I mentioned yesterday, we talked to our biologists and we asked them, would one more ram, would one more elk really significant upset the balance in a particular herd? I agree with Commissioner Wallace that we don't want to make a mockery out of what we're trying to do. At the same time, I constantly hear the commissioners talk about the fact that our Heritage Fund is our primary source of funding for a lot of these projects where we can't come up with federal match money and predator control issues. And it's a dichotomy, folks. We've got to decide where we're going to get it without upsetting sportsmen, without upsetting the balance within some of our prime herds. And I know, I'm glad you're sitting up there and I'm not, and you have to make those decisions. But when we think about how hard-pressed we all are to find sources of funding, to turn away $40,000 or $50,000, I don't know if that's the right decision right now. I don't think we have the luxury of being able to make that kind of decision to turn away that kind of money. And I reiterate, I'm glad you're making that decision. All I can do is give you a different perspective to think about. Thank you.
Hey, Gil, I'll tell you where I stand as a sportsman's rep. if I have an opportunity on one tag and we can give it to a sportsman and raise $250,000 and not give it to a special interest group so they can draw somebody in for an auction, I'm going to vote every single time to give it to the hunter and get one more sportsman in the state of Nevada an opportunity. It was going to draw more money than a special interest group to, and contrary to what Commissioner McBeth says, I will give it to a sportsman any day than a special interest group for an auction if we're not raising enough money.
I think when Chad talked to everybody about the idea of the Silver State tag, this was the poor man's heritage tag. It was great. And we were all, that was a great idea, and we still think it's a great idea. And I agree with you. Let's make that the greatest thing that we can do for the average sportsman in this state. I think that's wonderful. But at the same time, I don't want to turn a deaf ear to the needs of the groups that have for years raised all that money through the Heritage Tag program. They use that as a big draw for people to come to their functions at the same time. Because when things get tough, who do we turn to for $40,000 and $50,000 and $100,000 donations to fix our helicopter, to pay for some of these special projects? The special interest groups. And you shut the door on them, and it's like cutting off your nose to spite your face. Don't forget what they do for this department, what they do for the sportsmen of the state. So I understand the challenge that you have. And I agree with you, Chairman Lent, that yes, we need to show the average sportsman that we're on their side. But we also need to support those organizations that come through every time you turn your pockets inside out and say, guys, we need help. Who do we turn to? Those organizations.
They also tell me that, I've talked to several of them, they said, you know, if we didn't have an auction tag, it wouldn't make any difference in our banquets or yearly functions, and that's a good factor, but it's not the only factor. They could still function without it, so that is something that we'd discuss at the time. But the Silver State does go in the Heritage, and so that means if they sold it for $90,000, we got $250,000, we're subsidized and we're losing this much for the state of Nevada because they go in the Heritage Fund, and it's a money matter, and this commission will take a good look at that when that happens, but we want to see what the Silver State pans out.
I appreciate that, because when I was asked to set up a nonprofit to raise funds to do certain things for the department, who was I able to go to try to raise the money? These are the people that come through every time for this department. I mean, you write letters, you make a few phone calls, and they understand the need, and their members come through for this department in more ways than anybody really knows.
Commissioner Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I mean, it's a good, healthy debate, but we're really kind of, I mean, I would like to see action item number 12 get beyond that. Maybe we can have committee meeting, we can have this discussion again there. That'd be a great place to kind of, I mean, we're getting the cart before the horse and whatnot. Okay. We got to get past 12, and then we can talk about 13.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Gil. Any other county advisory boards? If not, I'll close the county advisory board. Member items, go to the next item, public comment period. Be sure to fill out a card if you wish to speak, and since we don't have an adequate clock, Vice Chair Rainholp, a red card to note there's 15 minutes left in your testimony to help you sort of, 15 seconds, I'm sorry, to sort of let you judge the time. Who do you have on the public comment?
Nobody specified public comment. Everybody had various.
Is there anybody out there, public comment? If not, I'll close the public comment period and go on to the next agenda item, approval of the minutes. Has everybody had time to read the minutes? Are there any corrections to the minutes? I want to compliment Suzanne for an awesome set of minutes. It's just unbelievable. I've seen minutes for 40 years through the department. I've never seen better minutes than these. And I know she spends a lot of time in here, and it's just refreshing to know that I can go to the minutes and I very seldom find any corrections in them. Commissioner Rain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page 34 at the top, it's the motion that was made. It was
Just a second, let me find
flip to
it.
page
Just a second.
34.
Let me get to there. Got it?
Here, where it says Commissioner Rain moved to suspend the rules, I would say, and go to items 12 and 13, then continue with item number 9.
Instead of suspend, I think.
Yeah, suspend the rules, go to items 12 and 13, then number 9, because that's what we did.
Okay.
And it also passed unanimously. It didn't say unanimously. So if we could insert.
Motion passed, yeah.
Erase that after rules, erase and, simply rules, go to items 12 and 13, then continue with item number 9, and add unanimously at the end. Also, page 37 at the bottom, the motion that was made there, actually, it's just above the bottom paragraph there. I accepted. Let's see, it says, Commissioner Rain said to great sympathy, can live with that, acceptable to him in the motion. The second also agreed for that amendment. The second did agree to the amendment there. So if we could insert second agreed. And also, on page 51, where it has item number 8, that was actually item number 7.
Page, what page?
51.
Got it.
Where it says item number 8, that was actually item number 7 on our agenda. I know it had been tough for Suzanne to write this out because once we reversed the order 3 times, but I think that was item number 7 on our agenda.
Does anyone have a
That was it.
problem with these changes? Those look, did you get those, Suzanne? Okay, then I'll accept a motion to approve the amendments, or the minutes as amended by Commissioner Rain.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Howell to approve the minutes as amended, second by Commissioner Rain. Any comments? Hearing none, call for the motion. All for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. The minutes are approved with as amended. Next item on the agenda is correspondence. I have some correspondence, but I'll go ahead with whoever has any correspondence. Want to bring that up? This is time to do it. Yes, Commissioner Cavan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had one letter of correspondence from the Bureau of Land Management, Ely office. They're doing an EA on Clover Mountain and Tunnel Springs Wilderness. And the reason I bring it up is the public comment is going to be open until April 15th. And I didn't know if maybe that Ely or the Lincoln County had some input on that. I just wanted to bring it to your attention that you can make comments on that EA. So I'll give that to Suzanne for the record.
Anybody else? Commissioner McBath?
Along that same vein, the letter that Commissioner Cavan is talking about is actually one of a series that have come out, and what and I've made this recommendation before, but what I would recommend in the county advisory boards is to monitor the BLM's website and catch these, especially the Ely district. It's very good when you click on their district. It's a map of the state of Nevada and it shows Ely. You can click on it and it shows all the EAs, all of everything that's coming out that they do, all the projects. And so the Grafton, there's a combination of Fortification Range, Grafton Range, and Parsnip Peak, I believe, that was all combined in one. They've had all of the wilderness areas around Pioche, Caliente have come through, and now this one. And so, the point being is that if you monitor that website, you'll be able to see these projects coming through, and there's, projects that are related to ranching that on, issues with springs and multiple projects that may be relevant to to wildlife. And so I just would encourage everybody to, monitor those websites and be proactive in dealing with those issues if you want to comment.
I have a bunch of correspondence here. I just want to read in the record here. I had one from Mike Doble on the helicopter horse roundup, and we had a hunter and I'll put it in for the record. We had a hunter complain that horse roundup, and he had a tag in Sheldon, and the wild horse roundup interfered with his hunt. And Mike Doble responded real well to it and said that we couldn't control it, but he was complaining, and that does happen. But on the wild horse roundup, when they set to do them, I don't think we have any control over them, and I don't think they always look at when we have a hunting season. So Mike Doble responded to that, and this was from a Thomas Clark in Minden, Nevada. I had another one, and he wanted us to, his concerns, and wanted us to see if we could do anything about it, but I don't think there's much we can do about it. And had another one from David Cantor from Winnemucca, and he was talking about the age when you attain 65 years of age, and I guess I don't know how old he is, but and he's talking about having a draw for old guys, and I agree with him. Anybody 65 and older, but anyway, I'll put that in the minutes too. He said it works good for youth hunts, and he should have an elderly hunt. And so I'll put that in the record and give you 2 copies, in fact. And then I had another one on bonus points, and this was from, I'll get his name in a minute here, Kent Burrows. And I, along with many other Nevada sports, would like to see a program where the people holding max bonus points would receive a percentage of the big game tags. Arizona gives 20% to max bonus points, Utah 50%, Wyoming 75%, Oregon 75%. I feel that 25% is a fair number. 1 tag, no max point tag, 2 to 4, 1 tag, and then the members work themselves. This is a concept that's been floating around quite a while. If you county boards want a good item for your county boards, I'm not sure if we took that up before, but that keeps coming back from sportsmen. That might be something the county boards want to put in and see if they want to do anything for the people with max points. I would bring our systems consultant person in to see what that would involve. I think we did that before. I can't remember the outcome, but if that's a hot item, we could put it on the agenda, but, something the county boards could throw out. If we wanted to do it, we might put it on the agenda just for discussion. I had another one here from Brandon Fordine. I went to my county commission and told them that I wanted an Elko County board member at the state meetings. I told him Ken Wellington was not at the meeting. He came back the next day and said he was there at the meetings and had a signed letter from Pete Morris saying he was there. He did not stop in about 10 minutes for a 10-minute Saturday, and that is all. I asked him to answer questions you had for him, and he was not there. Anyway, in short, I would ask you to send a letter that he was not at Friday and at Saturday only for a few minutes. And I referred that back to the department, saying I don't keep track of that, but, and I don't know if Commissioner Moore wrote a letter, correspondence. I didn't see any letter, if it was. If he didn't, and I responded to him and told him to talk to the secretary, to the commission. He keeps a record of it, and I made some comments, and they're in the minutes, my comments, but that's what I did with that. I had another I had another email from Director Mayer about a poll in the Eastman Journal regarding the states which had the worst big game program in the West. And this is just, it's in my opinion, it's you know, it had Nevada 2.43%, and Nevada doesn't have many out-of-state hunters, and this is geared to out-of-state hunters, and all this poll is doing is measuring out-of-state hunters, and there's very few in Nevada compared to the other states, and 90% of out-of-state hunters in Nevada, I think, go with guides. And I don't think this has to do anything with Nevada's program. This is just an attitude survey, and I don't think it's anything to brag on. This relates only to the states that have the most out-of-state hunters, if you look at it. Anyone who responds to this is disgruntled anyway, and because it said that if you hunt in that state, don't respond to your own state. And when they had 2.43% of what? Of how many? It doesn't have the data behind it at all, and I just think it's some window dressing, my personal deal, when I look through it here, and you think Nevada has the worst, but 100 people didn't hunt in Nevada if you go by the numbers. This doesn't say 97.8% are happy, because these aren't in-state, these are not in-state people, and so I think the survey doesn't have a whole lot of meaning. So if you guys read it in Eastman's, I don't think it has much bearing on what's really going on in this state. And also had another one, and it says, this was sent in to me by the newspaper, NDOW seeks volunteer sage grouse counters, and this was the Elko paper. The Department of Wildlife seeks volunteers to help monitor sage grouse numbers. A workshop to learn about sage grouse, how to count them, on March the 20th. I had a question on this. How do you train, and maybe Director Mayer can do it, how do you train these counters? What kind of training do they have on them? Well,
it's through our volunteer program, and those that want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go to a LEC site, we put them through a training course. We have certain protocols that they have to live up to. They have to be there at a certain time. They have to follow a procedure to actually count attending males at the LEC. So we put them through that training before they're ever allowed to go do the LEC counting. If we try to do it for ourselves, we don't have enough employees to cover all the LECs, obviously.
I had a question. Do you train them? I had one person tell me, well, we drive our trucks right up to the LECs, and that's one of the worst things to do because, if you take the hen off the nest, you're going to lose them.
And we fully understand that. I would take those kind of comments with a grain of salt.
Okay. I just had to comment.
In fact, we took the governor, we made him walk quite a ways, so.
And I'm sure you don't let them drive right up to the LEC. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Chairman Lent, Kelly Clark. Our program, we've been doing that training for probably 7 or 8 years now. It's a pretty sophisticated program. Kim Toulouse has been the lead on that. And one of the primary things is to make sure that the volunteers are aware of their responsibilities and the ethics that are involved in doing that count. We do provide them and assign them to specific LECs so that we have volunteers who are committed to doing the collection of information in a strategic way, and the data that we bring back is very valuable. We provide all that data to Sean Espinoza every year, and I like to think it's one of the best ways we have of collecting citizen science out there on the land, in addition to harvest questionnaires. So. But we do provide them maps, and we assign them to specific areas, so they're not out going everywhere and hither and yon. So.
And you do supervise them to make sure they don't drive right up yet?
Yes, we do. Okay. And the surveys that I've been on, we set up quite a ways away, and you get there before the birds are even on the site, and then you set up and get dark. It's in the absolute dark of the day. Right. And you're actually there before the birds come on the site, and then set up the scopes and wait for the sun and all of that. And I would encourage all of you to go out on one of these LEC surveys. It is one of the most interesting wildlife spectacles you'll see when you see those large male sage grouse with their air sacs and making the plopping noise at dawn, you think you've gone back in time. It's really a beautiful and interesting experience, and I would invite all of you to come out. We just had another LEX survey training. Kim Toulouse held it in Reno, in addition to the Elko one that you just mentioned, and we have committed volunteers that come out for that training at 4 in the morning, and it's pretty impressive. So we would encourage all of you, and we've invited legislators to come on that as well, but most of them don't want to get up at 4 a.m.
I know. No, it's a good program. Thank you, Kelly. I had another correspondence from a Paul Knoop from Unionville, and I talked to Mike Cox on this, but I don't know if the word got down, but he told me that he'd like somebody to look into it. He said that this year he's had 8 fawns die, and he's a physician, and he has a ranch out there, from intestinal disease, GI, diarrhea, and he said this has been going on for 3 or 4 years, and this year's been the worst, and he said there's feces all over their backs, and he said he doesn't think there's any fawns left there, and he had wildlife, and he didn't tell me who, and he said wildlife officials told him that they're just feeding them alfalfa, and he said they don't have any alfalfa out there. I mean, you know, I don't know. This is what he said, and he said they start having diarrhea and they die, and I gave him the phone number to Mike Cox. He's got an Emily number and a Reno number, and maybe you could follow up on that to make sure we get somebody of all us out there and investigate, because you know, he's a physician, and he said they've been going on for several years, and so he wanted me to bring it up, and I said I'd turn it over to the department.
We'll have our veterinarian call him. The correct term is scours. It's very common at this time of year, especially with the flesh of green growth, depending on what they're eating. And in fact, the deer in captivity will get scours if you don't let them eat dirt and stuff. So it's kind of a complicated system with their rumen, but we'll have our veterinarian give him a call.
Okay, thank you. And Mike, I think, has all the phone numbers. If you don't have them, I have them again here. Had another, I think lastly here, I had another one from who's it, Jim Mornellis, I think, yeah. And he sent me an email about a lawsuit that Pennsylvania has. It's a sportsman's group, United Sportsman's Group in Pennsylvania, and they're suing. They're trying to get an injunction relative to Save Our Public Land deer herds and they're requesting all antlerless deer hunting stop on federal land, and it's going to court. And he said Nevada groups are looking at it, and the email comes back from the sportsman's group, and it says, "We are seeking a court date as we speak. The deer audit was presented and the Game Commission was clobbered." They got nothing, and Jim Solinsky, I guess he's a writer for something. He's writing a column on it. But what we have here is, and I've got the article here, we have a sportsman's group that are suing the department for mismanagement of deer and making the deer going down, and so it's going to court. And they did an audit, and I'm not familiar with the audit details, but that is probably one of the reasons why I formed a deer committee, because I don't want any sportsman's group to say we're mismanaging the deer, and we want to just see what we can do. But that was another email I got, and I think that's the last email or last correspondence I have. Does anybody have any other? If not,
Mr. Chairman, staff wanted me to remind the commissioners to give Suzanne a copy of all email and correspondence, just so it gets into the official record.
I'm doing it right here.
I wasn't directed at you, just in general.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next item of business here. And it's these are action items. Commission General Regulation 380, LCB file number R15509, application amendment. Maureen.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and the Commission. Yesterday, we workshopped CGR 380 LCBR 15509. At this point, today, we're here to adopt, and I'd like to just point out again the CAB, Washoe County's recommendation, and then I'll turn it over to you. They recommended a language change for Section 2, 1B, the end of that section, and I'll just read the full thing with their changes at the end because they wanted to clarify the submission date for the written request. And I'll just read all of B with the change in there. By submitting a written request to the department, which includes the applicant's client number, if the request is received by the department by the Friday next preceding the draw, and that changed language was developed with discussions with our contractor. And so at this point, since that's the only recommended change, I'll turn it over to you for a decision.
Any questions of Maureen? I want to turn back over the public comments, so just stay there. And anybody in the public want to comment on this change, or Washoe County wants to get up and explain that or anything? If not, going.
Darrell Harwell, Washoe County. The original word was with submission on a request. Hold on. If I can get that. When we were looking at it, on that item, it read significant time for processing. We decided that that's what it was. We thought it should have a certain date, because sufficient time for processing on whose? I mean, everybody would be different. So that's why we picked a date. Maureen, with what I understand, was talking with our application group, and they decided to make it by the Friday, which is a certain date, which would go with us.
Okay.
But that's why we decided to change it or brought it up, because it was, at the time, significant time for processing. And
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. Any more public comment? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission for comments. Commissioner Rain?
I'm basically ready for motion. I do like that change that came out of Washoe County. I do like, a definite date. That's great. I'm ready for motion if we're done.
Let's see if any more comments. Otherwise, I'm ready for a motion on this.
If I could, move to approve LCB file number R155-09 as amended and read by staff moments ago.
Who seconded it? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve LCB file number R15509 as submitted by the department and seconded by Commissioner Capurro. And in section 2, if I got this right, 1B, and is received by the department by the Friday before the drawing, putting that in there, that's the change in the wording. Does everybody understand that? If they understand that, Commissioner Macbeth?
I think it was the word draw as opposed to drawing, right?
By the Friday next preceding the draw period. Right.
We're just taking before out.
Yeah, you're striking from before to the end of the sentence and adding in the new language.
Right. Commissioner Kevin?
Not the language you read, the exact
Yeah.
language that.
I'm sorry, the language, yeah.
Okay.
The language that staff read. Commissioner Capurro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would remind this body that they removed language on page 3, which is basically subject, if we pass the regulation on Silver State tags. So just keep that in mind.
Then if we don't pass the Silver State tag, we'll have to come back and readdress this, I think. Okay, all for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
And I'll vote for aye also. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thanks, Maureen. The next item is Commission General Regulation 354, LCB File 196-09, commonly called the Silver State Draw. Maureen?
Like on the application amendment regulation yesterday, we workshopped CGR 354R19609, the Silver State tag language. I presented questions and answers and the sections with the language changes. I also presented, the support with the actual changes identified in a written format for you other than just the support material. I did point out the one that I found just recently on page 3, adding the word "as" in there in addition to what I had already had in the support material. Then I'd also like to point out the recommendation presented by Lincoln County. They would like to see it would be in section 3. They would like to see.
What page, John?
Page 1.
Page 1?
Yeah, section 1, subsection 3, excuse me. On page 1.
Section 1, subsection 3?
Yes. Lincoln County's recommendation would be to, right now, the language reads that if they are if they're successful in the Silver State tag draw, then they become ineligible for the subsequent draws. They would like to see the applicants eligible for those subsequent draws. So that would be their recommendation. So in section 2, subsection 3, it currently reads, if eligible, an applicant who indicates his desire to participate on his application for the Silver State drawing may, in the same year, if the applicant was unsuccessful, that whole continuation into what their eligibility is, that if unsuccessful, they'd be eligible for those subsequent draws. They would like to see it no matter what, they'd be eligible for those subsequent draws. So.
And the fee on this is $15, right?
It's proposed at $15. Okay. That was my other recommendation I was going to bring up, that, Washoe County did have a recommendation to increase that Silver State tag fee to $25. That in addition to your $3 Predator and your elk $5 fee and your convenience fees. So that would be the other recommendation by a county advisory board. And so that's.
Any commissioner have any questions? Before we bring it back for vote, let me see if anyone in the public has any comments on this regulation. Come on up.
And,
excuse me, Gil.
I just want to point out again that on section 3, if you do, with the adoption of the amendment 1, number 3 would be deleted because it would be obsolete. So I just want to make sure that is clear also as part of the changes. So.
Okay.
Gil Yannick speaking for myself. I'd like to keep the fee at $15 based on the discussion that we had yesterday, that the more people we can get into this, and by the time you take 25 and you add the various fees, we're getting up to, 40 some odd dollars. And I think, as shown by what we did with PIW, it'd be smarter for everybody to leave it at 15.
Thank you.
Darrell Harwell speaking for myself. When we discussed this, we remembered that the fee was 25 in the beginning. So me personally, the intent was it started at 25, keep it at 25, without adding on the other things. So me personally, I see now the $15 would be the logical choice, because then you have the other fees added on top. But that's, I think, was the intent when we were discussing it, with me, is when I first voted on this, the fee was at 25. So now with the current things, me personally, I would go with the 15.
Just, you want to question him? Back it then. We got a question from Commissioner Cavan for you.
Thanks, Darrell. I think you answered my question, but, so when you discussed it at your cab, did the cab realize that the fee was really going to be approaching $25, or did they think it was going to be 15?
We thought the fee was going to be a flat 25. We didn't add on the online application fee, the predator fee, or anything else that tag was going to increase. We thought it was a flat 25.
So what your cab was thinking, it should be in the $25 range?
Correct.
And that's kind of where we're at with the $15 fee?
Correct.
There's a little confusion there, is that?
Like I said, just being at the meeting and the discussions we had, that was brought up, and it was like, we started this fee at 25, why don't we just keep it at 25? And we voted on it unanimously, with the change of moving from 15 to 25. But now, after yesterday's discussion, I can't speak for the other 4 members of Washoe County, but for me personally, I see why it's the 15th, because now we're back up to the 25 or $20 range when you add all the other fees.
Thanks for the clarification.
We got another question from Commissioner Capurro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I attended that meeting. The discussion, Darrell, I would remind you, was that there would be $25 going to the Heritage Fund. That was the discussion that I heard as part of that discussion that took place, and that what you're proposing by yourself now, because again, the CAB's position was to increase it to 25 for the Heritage Fund.
But as you said when we were in the discussion, I don't think we ever brought up that there was the $2 application fee or the $3 predator fee or the $5 elk desperation that would be added on top of the 25. So we never brought that up. We just thought the flat fee of $25 would be going to the Heritage. And like I said, I cannot speak to the other 4 members, but I know that we didn't talk about the processor fee or the predator fee or any elk damage fee or any sheep fee or anything else. So
I appreciate what you think personally, Darrell, but the fact of the matter is the CAB did vote unanimously with you included.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to back out now, that's fine, but the CAB position, as we understand it, was for $25 for that fee, irregardless of the other fees. And I would also remind the previous speaker that the total would be 35, not 40, if you're looking at additional fees that would be involved.
And that's why I says, I was talking on myself, not Washoe.
Commissioner McBeth.
Lincoln County is proposing an amendment, and I don't know how we address this. I'd almost like to get comments from the other cabs on that, but I don't even know if we can, because their cabs haven't voted on it, haven't discussed it, but at this point, we have one cab that makes the suggestion, and then we don't get any other input from the other cabs on that particular item because it wasn't in the regulation when they looked at it at their cab. I don't know if there's a solution to the issue I'm raising, but I would really like to know what they think about that, because it seems that I'm going to have to make my decision, and this commission is going to have to make a decision just based on one cab's comment on that particular issue.
Well, we got the cabs here, and I turn it over to the cabs right now, and so this is their time to make the comment, because it is an action item on the agenda, and the cabs show up this meeting, and so this is where they have time to. We've got a proposed change to the amendment as presented by the department, and So this is where the cab should comment. We do have some cabs that want to comment, so step on up. We want to hear what you say.
Mike Reese, Clark County Cab. I'm actually representing myself, but I would strongly encourage you to keep the amount as low as you can. As we look around this country, these lottos that are up there in the $1 million range, it's because the tickets are $1 a piece. You get a family of 2, 3, or 4 that want to put in, rather than make a decision of, okay, who gets to put in for the silver this year? Well, if you keep it down around the 15, there's a good chance a family of 2, 3, or 4 would be able to put that in. Once you hook them in, then it comes up again the next year, and it's like, that was pretty cheap last year. You know, we didn't win anything, but, you know, for that cheap amount, let's go ahead and try it again one more year. But you kick that amount up to a higher amount, they're going to start looking to see, okay, who are we going to put in for that? So I would strongly encourage you guys to look to keep the price as low as you possibly can to make it afford to the Nevada sportsman. Thank you.
This is a conversation I remember 20 years ago when the commission raised the application fee to $10 when it was only $3, and they wanted to raise it to $10, and there's a lot of comments, you're going to knock hunters out of the system at $10, and they went ahead and did it, and we still have 130,000 applications total for it. But no, I appreciate your comment.
Well, with the unemployment here in Clark County at, 12%, I don't think in any of you guys' lifetime you've ever seen it like that. So I would strongly encourage you to look at the lower amounts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Tom Casanelli, I'm representing myself. We did not vote on this money issue at our meeting, but as I mentioned yesterday, a little history, and on the PIW, we were behind. Humboldt County was big proponents of that, and when it got started, and we proposed a $25 fee. That's what sticks in my mind. And Tommy Ford come into this commission. He kind of took it over as his project, and he proposed $10, and we were all sitting there going, we're not going to create enough money at $10 with this PIW, and we go, we should, raise it up. And looking back at the history of it, I think it was the smartest thing this commission has done in a long time, because it really went gangbusters. Everybody started putting in for this tag, not just, and I think you start talking $30, it's not a lot of money to a lot of us, but it is to some. And if you can get them, every sportsman in on it, that's what I'm for. I'm for letting everybody that can afford a chance at this tag, give it to them, especially if it creates the same amount of money, and I think it will. I know you'll pick up the numbers to make up for that extra little bit of money. That it's just a little bit of money you're talking about. Pick up some more sportsmen, give some more opportunity, and I think that's what this commission, I believe that's your agenda. You want us to give the most you can to the most people in this state and outside this state. This is a great option for sportsmen all over the country to get a premium tag. I mean, we went through all the lawsuits and stuff that we were looking at for non-residents, and now we're giving them a chance at a premium tag. I think this goes a long ways in showing our support to the wildlife and the sportsmen of this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Chad.
Chad Bliss, and just speaking on behalf of myself, I have a suggestion to maybe try to meet in the middle or something. The elk tag, the total amount right now out of the sportsman's pocket would be $25 as this is written, 15 going to heritage account, 5 to the depredation or the damage, 3 to predator, and 2 to the application. The mule deer or any of the other species would be 15 to the heritage count, 2 to the application, and 3 to predator. My suggestion would be to try to meet in the middle. If you took the all other species other than the elk and moved it from the flat rate of $20 to $25, so that both of them were equal, you would be gaining an extra $5 per application for any species other than elk, and still making it 100% affordable for the average hunter. This, it's truly about the average hunter. When my children are old enough to hunt and be able to apply, I want to be able to provide the opportunity for them to be in this program. And there's a lot of families out there, if that top dollar, you know, that's the number that's coming out of the sportsman's pocket, they're not going to know or care where the other one is. They're going to say, this is the amount coming out of my pocket. So that's the part we got to worry about. There's going to be hunters out there that can't afford to put their wife in, or their son, or they may put them in and not themselves. So the goal of this is to incorporate everybody that we can. We wanted to make as much money as we possibly could for the Heritage account so we can do great projects across the state. And so we got to make it affordable. We got to make it marketable. And we don't want to price it out of the average sportsman's range. Times are tough, and maybe when times turn around, we can do an increase or a decrease. But my suggestion to this board is maybe 25 across the board, out of the pocket, not into Heritage. So it'd be, you're looking at $20 for any application besides elk that would go into Heritage, and that would be my answer to the issue.
Thank you. Thank you,
Chad, I have a question. Are you saying a different fee for the other species and a separate one for elk?
Speak up, I can't hear.
I'm sorry. It was the question for a different species, for each, the other species of different fee than for the elk? Two separate fees? I just want to understand it, so if I have to write it, if it goes that way.
I think what he's suggesting is it's $25, and what the department does is take that $25 and then subtract the mandatory fees that we currently have for applications, predator fee, and then whatever's left over goes to the Heritage account. I think that's what he's suggesting. And I tell you, from my perspective, from a marketing perspective, we're going to be answering questions. I don't know whether we can or not. That would have to go to the technical folks. But we're going to get a $15 fee, and then when somebody gets on the computer, they're going to pay more than $15. I can tell you we're going to be answering lots of questions. But we're prepared to do that. But I don't know, is it something we can actually do technically?
Commissioner Rain?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The non-residents don't have a $2. They've got
The
more than
$3.50.
$3. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that would be an issue involved in that. What do we do? That we take just an additional wrinkle?
I'm not sure LCB would like, I think they'd rather see a set fee identified in the language. And, I mean, we can write it any way you want. But I think they would probably kick it back for reworkshop, since it's a significant change on intent.
Commissioner Capurro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I kind of like the idea. And I, especially given the explanation given us by Director Mayer, that I think the 15 was too low. I think that all along you had presented and did a good job, quite frankly, of shepherding the Silver State tag through, and with some pretty impressive numbers. So I could go along with a flat fee that would, and I don't know the answer to the elk thing. I guess we just lose $1 off it for the Heritage account is what happens. But I think it makes sense to be able to tell people it's a flat $25 or $26 or whatever it might be. I would say this, that we're not talking about a little bit of money, as was previously mentioned. The difference between the 15 and 25 is about $150,000. So it's a big amount of money.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Cavan?
Well, this is the set fee for the Silver State.
I agree with the concept that the road we're going down here. So basically, I think what we would have to do here today would be to basically work the number backwards.
Yes.
So just for the record, Maureen, we have a $10 application fee.
That is being excluded out of this particular regiment. Remember, we're exempting the Silver State app from the non-refundable $10 fee.
So let's get exactly what the fees are then. The fees
Okay.
are $3 predator fee,
Yes, there's a $3 predator fee, there's a $2 convenience fee,
And a what?
$2 convenience fee for online,
Residents.
for residents.
Yeah.
And then you have the $5 damage fee on elk.
Okay, so we're at exactly $10 for fees, except for the non-resident is 50 cents different,
$1.50 more.
$1.50. So in order to get, in order to get $15 to go, which is our minimum by law, in order to get $15 to go to the predator fee, or to the heritage account, excuse me, we have to come up with, looks to me like $16.50 in the law. So 15 has to go to the heritage.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, we were talking about 25, which would put $20 into the Heritage Fund.
And then you're going to add on the convenience
And add on the
fee.
$5 fees, the 3 and the 2. The question then becomes, yes, you have $1.50 for the non-resident that if you put it at 25 for everything except elk, $20 would go into Heritage. For elk, it would be only, what, $18.50?
Would you like me to read out? I've got the $15 rate, the $20 rate, and the $25 rate.
Yeah.
And would
The
that
total-
help
the
things?
total amount?
Yeah, I can give you the
Resident and
breakout for those.
non-resident?
Go ahead.
For the different.
Go ahead, read
If you
that.
set the Silver State, okay. So if you set the Silver State tag at $15.
What's the total?
And then you add those other fees as required by statute, all species except for elk would be 20. Elk, this is for the resident, all other species would be 20, elk would be 25. If you set it at 25, all other species would be 30, elk would be 35. All right, at the non-resident would be $21.50 and $26.50 at the $15 rate. At the $25 rate, it would be $31.50 and $36.50. And then if in the middle of the road, the $20, for all other species for residents, it's 25. For the elk, it would be 30. For the non-residents at $20, it would be $26.50. And the elk would be $31.50. Did that provide any clarification?
Let me make a couple comments here, because,
I'm starting to get lost.
you know, if somebody got a trophy elk last year, the year before, or desert bighorn sheep, and to say we're going to charge you $15 to get another one, that's ridiculous, I think. And to say that, you know, should we tie this into the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and say when it goes up, we can raise this, when it goes down, we'll lower it? You know, we're in hard times now, but and it's not going to last forever. And what if we have a 15% state growth in a few years, like we did under Kenny Gwynn's administration? Should we raise it more? And, you know, hunters, you know, we have a high unemployment, but to say, you know, we've had it for a few years, who's to say? And if you want to say, well, everyone is out of work now, so we ought to lower it, then let's tie it into consumer price so we can raise it automatically when everyone has jobs. And I think that's ridiculous. And we've got all the hunters brainwashed now. They know they pay an application fee. They know they pay a predator fee. They know we have an elk fee that's separate in addition to it. And the hunters are all trained now. So all we have to do is say, we're going to have a Silver State tag, and it's going to cost $25 plus fees. That's all you got to put out. And they know they're going to pay these extra ones because the $25 is going direct into Heritage, and the department's going to make money, and we're going to have a lot of Heritage money to do projects that's going to go back in the department, and they're going to get their fees. So it's not going to be a big misunderstanding, I don't think, because hunters know they pay these application fees, and I'll say plus fees. It's going to cost Silver State $25 plus fees, and out of state's going to pay $1 more, but to have one fee, we got all out of state, and we got the elk fee that's completely different. And so we can't
that's the
set one
breakout.
fee because we're gonna make less money on the elk because some go the elk, and the hunters already know they pay these fees plus fees, and it's not going to be a big secret. And I don't think you're going to get a lot of phone calls saying, well, how come you said 25? If you advertise it 25 plus plus the regular fees. And most hunters, 90-some percent, 3% apply online. They know they pay the fees. And I don't think it's going to be a big problem of confusion between the hunters. And to sell a desert tag, if we do that, for 15 bucks is a disgrace to the animal. And I don't think there's any hunter that wouldn't put 15 bucks in for a trophy tag like that, or a trophy elk tag. And I talked to Chad on that. I don't think it's a problem with the hunters. If hunter wants to go hunting, he'll spend the money to do that. He might not buy groceries, but he'll spend to put in for a deer tag. And that's the way hunters are. But anyway, that's my comments on it. Commissioner Macbeth had a comment?
Yeah, isn't the fix, I'm not sure if we have to necessarily, have this go back to LCB and then come back, because aren't we talking about just changing section 3, subsection 5A?
Yes. That's all
We're talking about a non-refundable fee of $15. We could just say a non-refundable fee of $15 for elk and $20 for all other species.
You could do that, yes.
Commissioner Capurro, excuse me.
Well, there's another alternative too, Mr. Chairman. We could bifurcate the fees if you want. Make the deer tags $15 and the elk tags 25, 30, sheep tags higher too. I'd prefer not to do that, but I agree with the chairman's comments that it's ridiculous to say that a trophy sheep tag is worth only $15 to a hunter in the state of Nevada. I just don't see that you'll have that much fallout if the fee is higher. And I'm willing to negotiate that if that's what it takes to make people happy. But I just don't agree that the $15 figure plus fees is sufficient when you're talking about trophy animals. Thank you.
Okay, you go ahead and talk, Tom.
I'd like to speak. I think we've gotten off track a little bit here. I don't think any of us believe that the price is sufficient for a trophy animal. I've got a lot of friends, big sportsmen. They were really upset when the PIW tag went from $100 down to $10. And you know why they were upset? They were upset, and I said, this is really selfish. They were upset because their opportunity to draw a tag was diminished. There was going to be more people, and that's exactly what happened. There was going to be more people that come into this system to apply for that tag. And I'm not saying that that tag's not valuable and it's not worth that. What I'm saying is let's get it to every child, every kid that's out there. If you're a family and you got a family of 6, you're not going to be putting out $30 for every kid to apply for this. I would like, and the lower it is, and that's what happened with the PIW tag. As soon as it dropped, and like I said, when it went to $10, we were originally saying 25. When it went to $10, we said, boy, we're going to get our fannies handed to us because this isn't going to make the money. We're not going to make the money. Well, we were wrong, and I think you're wrong in looking at this the way you're looking at it. The lower you go, the more people come, and you're talking, it's about money. It's not the price, it's the total money. Let's get as many people as we can into this system applying for this tag, and that's where you'll make your money on. And you got to look at it both ways, and I really think it'll work that way. And if it doesn't, we can always raise this. Leave it set so you can raise this thing. But I think on the first year, let's get people involved, and that's what happened with the PIW. We got them involved, and they go, there was people that weren't putting in. Then the next year they go, oh, well, we can afford that for our whole family pretty soon. And look where it's at now. Everybody's applying for this tag, and we're making tremendous money off our PIW tags. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
For the record, Paul Dixon, Clark County. Just thinking about things, and somebody who's maybe legally smarter than me can correct me if I'm wrong in my assertions that I'm going to make here, is I think we've confused two issues. We have to vote on whether we want to legislatively go forward with this bill, and we have to have a value put in there. The value that's in there does not have to be set permanently in that legislation. In fact, it can be changed administratively without legislative change, is my understanding of the statutes. It's because it's an administrative fee. You can change that without going back to the legislature once you've fixed it.
I don't have to go back to the legislature, but I'd have to bring it before the commission.
We'd have to come back before the commission. So the point there is we ought to set a fee, as pointed out by Tom. You can set it at 15 or 25, set it at 100, I don't care. Set it, it's more important to pass the Silver State tag legislation. We can always go back out the advisory boards, we can always come back to this commission and say that price is too low or that's too high, and we can adjust that by administrative procedures, not by legislative, is my point. And I think that you guys need to take that into account. We're having a whole lot of conversation about how much to put into this, and we're delaying. The real important thing is passing a very important piece of legislation that allows every person in Nevada to apply for and have the ability to get a heritage type tag. And you can set the price at whatever you want, but that can always be changed without having to go back to the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other county board?
Gil Yannick, speaking for the Carson Advisory Board. When this proposal first came up about a Silver State tag, and the fee at the time was talked about as $25, everybody on our board looked at that fee as that was going to be the total that anybody was going to have to spend to get into that program. When we see various organizations raffle off, a $30,000 or $40,000 car, and all you have to do is buy a $1 ticket. If you want to buy one ticket, you pay $1. You want to buy 10 tickets, you pay $10. The same with what we've heard from numerous people. The idea was to get as many people involved as possible. That was the whole premise behind this. And I agree with the chairman, for a change, that
you always do.
Is it worth more? You bet it's worth more. But the reason we're offering this special deal is to get everybody an opportunity to have the best deal of their life. Please don't mess it up. Chad came through with great idea. He shepherded this thing for a long time. We've heard some of the commissioners indicate that, hey, yes, what actually winds up going to Heritage because of all the other things, and yeah, we can try to charge an out-of-state person who applies $1.50 more if he applies online. Not a problem. But the majority of people that this bill was designed for was the hunters in the state of Nevada. Give it to them for $25 and let everybody have a good opportunity.
I like your concept of $1 and you win a new car, but if you look at those things, the fine print, it's not just $1. It says plus tax and applicable fees on many, many auctions. There's different fees attached to it, so it's not $1 gets you going to win a car on a lot of things like this. There are additional fees on, and as far as I'm concerned, we have fixed fees the department has, and those are in addition to what the fee should be, and every sportsman is aware of that. They have to pay these fixed fees. And so I'm just opposed to it personally, but we'll see what we want. Thank you. Anybody else? We're just speaking once now in the county boards because we got to get on.
All right, I'm going to be brief.
I know you are.
Paul Harris, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself. And I guess I just want to make sure I have this right. If someone gets a PIW tag today, don't they still have to pay, if they get a sheep tag on a PIW, don't they still have to pay the price of the sheep tag? Yes. So they've won a sheep tag, and they pay. And wouldn't this be the same way? So if someone gets a Silver State tag and they won it, they still have to pay the price of that tag. Okay, because it seemed like we were missing that they were going to get a sheep tag for $15 or $20 or $25, whatever it may be, but they still have to pay the regular price. And I know a sheep tag is, I've been fortunate, I've gotten 2 in the state, but I think we've missed that point. And just my final point was, I'd be in favor of a lower fee, maybe closer to 20. We meet in the middle somewhere to make it more affordable to everyone. But if they do get that tag, they still have to pay for the price of that tag, whether it's an elk tag or a sheep tag.
Hey, Chad, you've already spoke once. I got to bring back the commission here. If there's anybody new, any information out there, we'll hear that. Huh? If you want to step new to the conversation briefly, we'll, okay. Let's bring it back to the commission then for discussion, because we've got a lot of commissioners with their hands up here. Commissioner Rain?
Just basically procedurally, I would like to see the commission vote on this in two pieces. One is on everything except the fee, and the second one is on the fee. Just so that we can, if we could do that, because I think it's going to be I think the point of disagreement is on the fee. I hate to have.
Just a second.
Okay, if we get counsel.
Gosh, I think you're voting for the same regulation, so you're just trying to break it into two different parts.
Yeah, is that possible to do that? Because I hate to be on, the end, I'd like to support the legislation, but I might end up voting nay because I disagree with the fee. So, I mean?
Yeah, it is on the agenda. It's a single item. I think you have to vote for the whole thing. You couldn't,
Got to break it down again.
You can't break it into two pieces, just so that we can, I would think, I'm pretty sure there's unanimous support on the commission to support it, but then we've got the fee issue, and that's all
We'll just keep voting till we get a unanimous vote on the fee.
if there's an issue on the fee, it really needs to be, discussed and voted on by the commission.
As part of the whole, so it's the one, okay, so, okay, well, I
That's
guess
why we're
that was
discussing-
vetoed, thank you.
That's why we're discussing at the commission level. We're looking at the regulation,
Okay.
we're looking at the fees, and we'll just keep voting till we get something done.
Very-
Commissioner Moore, you done?
In that case, since that can't happen, I'm in the $15 camp. That seems the most reasonable. Thank you.
Commissioner Moore?
I'll move to
No,
approve
I'm not ready
Commission
for a
General.
motion yet. We're still discussing it.
Okay.
Commissioner Capurro.
Yes, sir, I agree. First of all, I disagree with the proposal from the one county relative to the opportunity, basically, if you do what they say, you could draw 2 tags in a year. And I frankly disagree with that. I can't imagine sportsmen being in favor of that if the fact of the matter is that takes one out of their pocket too. So I'm opposed to the Lincoln County proposal for an additional bite at the apple for a second tag after they've drawn one. We don't do that in any of the other draws. You lose your opportunity once you draw, whether it's a heritage tag or anything else. You lose the opportunity to get another tag. So I'm opposed to that part. On the other, I like the idea of a fee that the fee would be, let's use an example, just $20 plus the applicable fees. I just happen to believe that's not a figure, it's kind of a negotiated figure between the 15 and the 25 that had been originally proposed and which I supported. But when it comes time to, I'd like to make a motion for that, and we'll find out where it stands.
Anybody else? Commissioner Cavan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't necessarily agree with the Lincoln County proposal. I don't agree with it or disagree with it, but that certainly can be amended at some future date. It's a change that can go back to the cabs, and Lincoln County, if they want to promote that with other cabs, they can see what consensus is and bring that back to the board. So I wouldn't be in favor of that at this point in time, but I think it is an option. It's something that we actually considered in our working group. So and we discussed that, and I was on the Lincoln County side of the fence on that, but so that could come back at any point in time. And looking at the numbers, it looks to me like the $20 fee gets us in the ballpark of what everybody's concept was of 25. It's going to vary with the elk and that sort of thing, but it gets us right in there as far as what has been proposed to the commission, how it was sold to the legislature, so that seems like a reasonable place to me to be, so.
Commissioner Macbeth?
If I understand correctly, if we were, the $20 fee sounds good to me as well, but I also like the idea of being able to market it as a flat $25, as, you know, including all fees. And it seems that by having elk at 15 and all the rest at 20, we get there. And so is that the only difference? I guess I just want to point that out. If that's the only difference, you know, we by just giving up $5 out of the elk amount going to the Heritage Fund, we literally get to that $25, you know, flat amount that everybody kind of had in their mind, because that's kind of what I've heard from the cabs, is that there's you know, multiple things going on, and I don't think we really thought that much about all these other ancillary fees that are out there. And so it just seems to me that we get that a little bit of benefit of being able to market this thing at a flat $25 for everything by going $20 on everything except for elk and $15 on elk. And that sounds like a positive thing. And I guess the only question is do you see any issues? Does you know, our contractor doesn't have any issue with that as far as, you know, being able to do that, right?
Yeah, no, we don't have any problem with that. I was just thinking.
Would you identify yourself for the record?
Monty Martin Systems Consultants. What about the commission fee? $2 versus $3.50.
The non-resident, right?
See, that's.
The non-resident rates would only be $1.50 more than your flat rate at 25 to get to that with the 20 and the 15. The non-resident would be $1.50 more. It would be the $26.50 versus.
No.
So,
Excuse me,
you know, that's where the
Commissioner
flat
McBeth,
year.
one of the things that, you know, I worry a little bit about, if you make it all in one, then the people that say this is, and they're going to forget to apply, they're going to forget when they apply for the regular season. We got two sets of standards. On one tag they apply, it's just one, and they're going to say, well, geez, I applied for the $25, and I didn't have to pay a predator fee, and I didn't have to pay that, and so when they apply for the regular one, you know, we got two standards going that way, and you know, I was thinking they were brainwashed to apply, you know, they got an application fee, they got an online fee, and they got a predator fee, and they got an extra elk fee, and so they already know that. If we say one all-in-one fee, then it's gonna mess them up on the other, and I want to avoid the confusion if I could.
Okay, so to keep it at the flat 25 for residents and non-residents, we'd then be talking about taking another $1.50 out of the Heritage? Is that what it'd be? Okay, I'm going to withdraw that then. I think at that point yeah, I think at that point I don't know if I like that.
Okay, we had another Commissioner Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to go along with my way of thinking is I want to see the sportsmen have the opportunity. And the $15, I really like that number. I'm not going to stand up and jump up and down if it's 20, but I would prefer to see it, like the cabs say, as low as we can get it, and it allows more opportunity for the sportsmen. And that's just where I'm at on that. So otherwise, I just want to see it as low as possible.
15 plus.
15 plus the fees
Okay.
is fine with me.
Commissioner Capurro?
You ready to try this on for size then and see where we are?
Yeah, I think we've worked out pretty good, so I think we're ready for a motion to see where we're at.
I would move that we adopt LCB file number RN196-09 with the changes proposed by staff, but without the Lincoln County recommendation, and that the fee structure be changed to $20 plus fees.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. We have a motion by Commissioner Capurro to accept LCB file 196-09 as proposed by the department with the changes by the department excluding the Lincoln County. And we have a second by Commissioner Howell, and the fees to be $20 plus the expenses. And there's second by Commissioner Howell. Let's have any discussion on that. That sort of splits it down the middle, I guess, from what we're talking, compromising. Hearing none, I'll call for the motion. All for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'm voting aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. You got that? Thank
Yes, I
you.
do.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Let's go to the next item on the agenda is Commission General Regulation 381, LCB file number 176-09. Chief Game Warden Rob Bonamici, this is
Mr.
on
Chairman.
crayfish.
Mr. Chairman, could I make one comment?
Sure.
I'd just like to thank Chad Bliss for bringing this thing forward. The hours and hours of work and driving and expense and agony and and everything else, he deserves a huge
And you take back to your assemblyman what we've done, I'm sure. Okay. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay, for the record, Rob Bonamici, Chief Game Warden. CGR 381. We workshopped it yesterday. We had discussed a change on page 7, about the middle of the page. Number 2, crayfish. The word Ambaridae to be deleted on the second line on number 2 there under crayfish. And then a change that I failed to mention yesterday, minor in nature, that our department veterinarian wanted on page 9, number 4B. Mammals, birds, or fish are accompanied by a health certificate issued by the state, is how that currently reads. We would like to change that. Page 9. 4B.
Oh, 4B. Gotcha.
Okay, page 9, 4B, currently reads mammals, birds, or fish are accompanied by a health certificate issued by the state. We would like to change that by deleting the word health and immediately after certificate, adding 3 words of veterinary inspection. So the proposed new language would read, mammals, birds, or fish are accompanied by a certificate of veterinary inspection issued by the state.
Rob, I had a question. I don't have the form in front of me, but when you have a pet and you're going to travel with it, you have to have a health certificate. But I don't think it says veterinarian. I don't know what that wording on it says. It's a health certificate for a pet, but why does it?
This is the new language that the veterinarians, the certificate is from a veterinarian, and that's what the veterinarians use as their new language, as opposed to a health certificate. It's a certificate of veterinary inspection.
What, could an ornithologist issue that?
No, it'd have to be from a veterinarian.
Why?
Because I would not be able to issue one if I'm not qualified to issue one by not being a veterinarian.
Okay. Just ask.
Was this language in the draft with part of the workshop?
No.
No.
This is not in the draft. This is new language.
Okay. That's fine. We can keep it as is then.
so we can't make this change.
Yeah, that'll be.
I've been advised that we can't make this change.
Okay.
We can't vote on this change. Huh? Yeah, just this one for 4B. The other changes we can, but this one that we just heard about for 4B, we can't vote on it.
Okay.
So.
And we're fine with that.
Huh?
We're fine with that. We want to make sure that we touch the bases correctly, so.
Yeah, we
That's
can
something
always bring
we
it
maybe
back.
bring back to the commission.
Bring it back
Yeah.
and we can do it later. Do you have anything else, Rob?
That's it.
Okay. Anybody from the public want to comment on this?
Darrell Harwell with Washoe County. What we had and we voted on, we supported what material we had. And if you're looking at one page, I don't know legally, but you do have a lot of cab boards here. And if you're just changing some wordage, we always hear, you know, we want to progress things like the first reading and second reading. I mean, I don't know if just changing a couple of words on another paragraph, and the other cabs can come up and speak for themselves, but I know Washoe County supported what we had and the changes that you were going to address. Now, if you're adding just a couple of extra changes on a different page, me as a person, I don't see a big difference. I can't speak for Washoe then, but for me as a person, I don't. And I'm not too sure about the cabs. But, you know.
We've been advised we can vote on the regulation as distributed, but we will not be voting on the words that were just expressed for the change, but we'll be voting on the regulation as presented to the county boards and, yeah, we can, right? Commissioner Capurro was there first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My concern about this language is we don't know what the net effect might be. Understand this, the way this regulation reads, it's country of origin. So do they recognize a veterinarian certificate or a health certificate? And you know, without knowing, I'd be really reluctant, despite whether or not the AG's indicated, which he has not indicated we could vote on it that way. I'd be real reluctant until we knew what the potential pitfalls of making that change might be.
We can vote it up or down, but we can vote it either way. If we have reservations about it, then we'll either vote to table it, or we'll vote it down, or we'll vote it up.
The department would like to withdraw that suggestion.
Pardon me?
So the department would like to withdraw that suggestion.
You mean the new words?
Yeah, we'll just withdraw it.
Okay. So we could still vote on the regulation as presented without the new words if you wanted.
Just the last one.
Except for what he withdrew. He withdrew the words, taking out health and other certificate of a veterinary medicine.
I'm ready to make a motion.
No, we're still talking about it. Anybody got any comments on that? Ready for a motion? Okay. I'll accept a motion. Commissioner Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to approve CGR 381, LCB file number R176-09, with the changes as presented in our presentation, and the change that was read previously by Mr. Bonamici, which was on page 7. The changes on page 7. The only additions being those changes on page 7 that we discussed yesterday.
Okay, we have a motion to approve LCB file number 17609 as with the changes presented. And on page 7, where we, on crayfish, we strike that first name, AMBARIDAE. We strike that out as presented yesterday. And that's the only change, Commissioner Capurro?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I guess it should be made clear that that's the only change.
Right.
That's involved with the regulation as it was presented.
That's what I said, as presented. Now, do we have a second to that motion? We had a second by Commissioner Cavan. Any other discussion? Everyone understand the motion? Call for the question. All for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Rob. Is that okay?
Can we take a break, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, let's take a 10-minute break. Hey, Ken. Let's bring the meeting back to order. Next item on the agenda is the Commission General Regulation 382 LCB file R004-10. Fisher biologist John Schwarberg. This is an action item. Go ahead, John. Take it away.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This again is the proposed CGR 382, which amends Nevada Administrative Code 488455 to add a flat wake regulation for the backwater on the Colorado River immediately south of Colorado, or Big Bend of the Colorado State Recreation Area. As discussed yesterday in the workshop, for purposes of both boating safety and also management of the sport fishery and the protected native fishes. And I had nothing additional and beyond what was discussed yesterday, but I'm available for any questions or discussion.
Okay, do we have any questions for John? If not, I'll turn it over to the public for any comments on this proposed regulation. Hearing none, I'll close the public comment, bring it back to the commission. And what's the favor of the commission? Commissioner Rain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion to approve Commission General Regulation 382, LCB file number R004-10 as presented in our support material.
Who was that? Who seconded it? Okay, we have a motion, and I always try to read the motions back so we know what we're voting on. We have a motion to approve Commission General Regulation 382 LCB file R004-10 by Commissioner Rain, seconded by Commissioner Capurro. Anybody have any discussion on it? Seeing none, I'll call for the motion. All for the motion, say aye. Aye. I'm voting aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is future commission meeting. Director Mayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ken Mayer for the record. We are meeting May 14th and 15th in Reno, and we're going to do the big game status report and quota setting. That's And then the next meeting, the June 25th, 26th, will be in Ely, so.
What was the date of that?
June 25, 26.
June 25 and 26 for the audience?
In Ely, and that'll be to set upland game and fur bear seasons and limits. So May in Reno, June in Ely.
Is everyone here with the June meetings in Ely? Right?
What it is? Yeah, it's June 25th and 26th to set and revise upland game and fur bear seasons and limits.
In Ely.
And limits.
Ely.
Excuse me? I'm not sure. But where? The Bristlecone Convention Center.
Ely. And we're going to have that other appeal that was supposed to be on today, and possibly another one, some pending ones, so might be a busy meeting. I want to make sure all the cabs. Anybody have any Commissioner Cavan?
I just want to let everybody know that I have a conflict on May 15th. I'm trying to resolve it. I'll do everything I can to, but it's tough, so.
Will you let me know as soon as you find out? I just want to thank all the county advisory boards for their input, and wasn't trying to be harsh on anybody. Sometimes when we have a lot of commissioners' comments, I'd like to try to keep the cabs come up once and give me your cab, and otherwise we don't have as much time as we should to have the cabs continue to come up here. So I try to give them, one chance to come up here, and then if we have time, it's not a controversial issue, we can come up and do some other testimony, but sometimes it's difficult on a busy schedule, and we got a lot of commissioners with questions to have the cabs come up 2 or 3 times. So I appreciate when you come up on the first time, try to give us all the information that we can so we can digest it up here, but we appreciate all the information you're giving us. That's the end of the agenda that I have, so I'll accept a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Huh? No.
Previously set.
That's already previous set. The commission meetings are already set. We don't have to approve them again. Who did the second? Who did the second for the adjourn? Okay, motion, second adjourn, all for adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn. Thank you. You get paid all day for this?